Imagine for a moment that you are standing in an open field, the air heavy with dust and anticipation, and across from you stands a Crusader knight. He is wrapped head to toe in polished steel, carrying weapons refined over centuries of warfare, his body hardened through years of unrelenting training. You, on the other hand, bring with you a gym membership, a shelf of protein powders, a little modern cardio, maybe even some martial arts classes or CrossFit sessions that you take pride in. You probably think you are fit, strong, and disciplined, but the truth is brutal. You would not survive even a few seconds in combat with such a man. A knight was not just a soldier. He was the end product of a system designed with terrifying precision to transform children into human weapons. From the age of 7, noble boys destined for knighthood were taken from ordinary life and placed into households where everything revolved around combat. While modern children played games, learned math, and watched cartoons, these boys were already serving warriors, tending horses, carrying heavy gear, polishing armor, and practicing with wooden swords day after day. They had no weekends, no holidays, and no excuses. Their games were combat drills. Their toys were weapons. Their playground was the training yard, and every mistake came with punishment. By the time they turned 14, they advanced to the role of squire, and from this point on the training became merciless. Their bodies were tested against crushing physical demands. They hauled immense stones to build raw strength, wrestled with opponents until exhaustion pushed them to collapse, and practiced weapon handling with deliberately overweight swords, spears, and lances, so that their real weapons felt light in comparison. Their lives revolved around endless repetition, constant strain, and the expectation that they must never show weakness. Modern athletes, no matter how elite, could not endure this regime, because knights did not treat pain as a warning sign, but as a teacher. Injury was not a reason to stop, but an opportunity to harden the will. Where today's professionals build rest days into their schedules and treat injuries with rehabilitation, squires and knights fought through broken bones, deep cuts, and fatigue that would incapacitate most people. And this was not considered extraordinary, but expected. Their minds were shaped as much as their bodies. They were raised in a culture where death in battle was celebrated, where pain was not feared but embraced as proof of honor, where glory came not from avoiding suffering, but from enduring it. This mindset made them terrifying opponents, because even if you somehow wounded them, they had been conditioned to keep fighting long after the point where a modern person would collapse.
Their training system was broad, covering every skill a warrior might need. Known as the 7 points of agility, it included riding horses with precision, climbing walls and cliffs, swimming rivers, fencing with bladed weapons, wrestling with sheer brutality, competing in tournaments that mimicked real battle, and even dancing. That last element may sound absurd, but it was vital. Dance taught rhythm, timing, and footwork was life and death. A single slip could mean defeat, and knights understood that balance and agility under pressure were as important as strength. This blending of brutal conditioning with graceful control forged warriors whose movement shocked their enemies. Archaeological and historical accounts confirm feats of strength and agility that seem almost impossible today. There are records of knights mounting war horses without help while fully armored, leaping into saddles as easily as modern athletes hop onto a bicycle. Some could climb ladders inverted, pulling themselves upward by their hands while weighed down with 60 pounds of steel, a feat that would leave even modern rock climbers struggling without armor. These stories are not exaggerations but backed by chronicles, illustrations, and biomechanical research. Knights were expected to perform such acts as part of their training, not as demonstrations of freakish talent but as routine requirements. Their armor, often misunderstood by Hollywood, was not clumsy or restrictive. A well-crafted suit of plate weighed between 35 and 55 pounds and distributed the weight across the entire body. Far from slowing them down, it allowed astonishing freedom of movement. They could run, roll, vault, wrestle, and fight with speed that startled their enemies. But the cost was high. Modern studies show that walking in armor demanded over twice the energy of normal movement, and but perhaps the most terrifying element was their collective discipline. Knights were not merely individual fighters, they were pieces of a larger machine. In cavalry charges, they rode knee to knee, their formation tight and unyielding. When dozens of heavily armored men on massive war horses charged together, the impact was catastrophic. Physics itself became a weapon, mass multiplied by acceleration producing devastating force. Chronicles from the Crusades tell of entire armies breaking apart at the sight of such a charge, their courage shattered before steel even struck flesh. The thunder of hooves, the glint of armor, the wall of lances aimed forward, all of it combined into psychological warfare as effective as the physical assault. Even veteran soldiers froze in terror at the oncoming wave of knights, and untrained men stood no chance at all. Facing one knight alone would be hopeless. Facing them in formation would be unimaginable. The psychological gulf between then and now cannot be overstated. Modern people live in societies built on safety and comfort. We avoid pain, seek comfort, and recoil from the idea of death. Medieval knights were taught to seek honor in death, to embrace pain as proof of resilience, and to see violence not as a last resort but as their purpose. This mindset gave them a ruthless edge that no amount of gym work could replicate. Against them, your strikes would bounce off armor designed by master craftsmen to deflect and absorb blows. Even if you managed to land an attack, it would barely slow them down. They would close the distance faster than you could react, their strikes landing with precision honed over decades. They would overwhelm you before your mind even processed what was happening. Archaeological studies of battlefields reveal skeletons with multiple severe wounds, evidence that knights struck with precision again and again. So the next time you imagine that modern humans are tougher, stronger, or more capable than our ancestors, remember the Crusader knight. Remember that a 12-year-old squire already had more combat readiness than most adults today, and that a trained knight could annihilate you so quickly that you would not even understand how completely outmatched you were. The Crusader knight is a reminder of what humanity can become when necessity shapes destiny, and he is also a warning. Against such men, you wouldn't last seconds. And that is not an exaggeration, it is a sobering truth grounded in history, evidence, and logic. Be grateful you will never have to test it for real. If you found this deep dive into medieval warfare fascinating, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more history told in ways you've never imagined.